So I'd already been breaking the law from a young age when I fell in with a guy called Nicky Tippett. He was different, Nicky. He was a total rebel and a bit of a legend in my area. I was about 16 and he must have been about 14, but he was simultaneously younger and more street than any of the people around him. It was almost like Nicky was born street, a proper Nor'wester, though he was mixed race. I started doing naughty stuff because of him. So it was a younger guy getting an older guy into trouble. It's supposed to be the other way around. He was as naughty as fuck. It was just robbing everything that moved, stealing cars, breaking into places. I had such good times with him. I was having a total laugh. But for Nicky, it wasn't about thrill-seeking. He wasn't the sort of guy to just throw a stone through a window or knock on a door and run away. The most he might have done for fun was stealing a car to joyride. When I knew him, from when he was about 14, it was all about money. Business at 14 years of age. I've never seen him act like a child. Ever. I can't ever remember playing football with him or doing anything fun with him, unless it was to do with money. One time, I'm walking past a house with him, completely oblivious, and he suddenly stops dead. "Listen," he says. "What?" "Can you hear that?" "What?" I say. "It's just a phone ringing." "Yes, but no one's answered it," he replies, smiling, and he's straight over the garden fence. We used to call him Nicodemus. He was the only person I knew who drove when we were young. He must have been driving a car when we was 15, or without a license. Me and him went halves on a beautiful Ford Cortina. I think we paid $250 each for it. But Nicky knew how to steal a car too. It was me and Nicky, mostly, and sometimes our mutual friend, Whitley Allen, would join us. Nicky's no longer with us, unfortunately. He died a couple of years ago. But Whitley remembers those times better than I do.
Whitley Allen. I first met Adrian because he was seeing this girl who was friends with my girlfriend. He was living at his nan's in Totterdown at the time, and I'd been hanging around there because of this girlfriend, so our paths finally crossed. We quickly found out we'd each grown up in a slightly different part of Knoll West, both black, but we'd been going around with the same people, all from the same group. Once we finally met, we'd just sort of clicked. It was just one of those connections. Weird. We found out we had the same sort of interests, and we started always being together. Even when we were in a group, it would always be me and him. We very rarely talked about doing things together, we just did them. We weren't followers, we led. He had my back, and I had his. I would walk through fire for him, and vice versa. One time we were walking in Easton, and his dad pulled up to the curb. He goes, "What are you doing here?" And my dad is in the passenger seat. We were both like, "Are you for real?" Then they just drove off. They didn't even give us a lift. That was like, oh my God. We obviously had so much in common without realising. I suppose that was why we were hanging out together. We were linked. We've done a lot of things, but he used this term. We were curious. We were getting up to all sorts, including with women. We got into... No, I should really say he got into a lot of situations where I'd be like, oh dear. For instance, my sister hated him with a passion. Every time he would come in the house and Grace was there, she would get up and walk out. I've got to give it to him, mind, because one day he said, "I'm not having this, Grace. What have I done to you?" And she was like, "You know what?" And they were cool after that. But that's him, just like, wow, no messing. We got up to a lot of naughty stuff with Nicky Tippett. Again, I knew Nicky's mum and family, and he knew Nicky separately. Then we all met up all together. Nicky was mixed race, but he was a real Knoll Wester, and the original straight-out criminal, a cat burglar. He lived and breathed crime. One time, Adrian was supposed to be there with Nicky and he didn't turn up, so I went instead. And it was a profitable job as it turned out. Nicky's older brothers were more into fighting, because if you were mixed race up there in Knoll West, you had to make your mark, otherwise you got walked over. There was Lloyd, Michael, Stephen, Ivan, and then Nicky was the youngest, so he didn't really have to do anything physically because he had all that family behind him. He was less violent, just more criminalised. He was shrewd and cunning, but a wicked, lovely guy.